Hi everyone, this is Halak again and welcome to another Java tutorial session. Um, Now in my last tutorial I covered composition, and in this tutorial I will continue with that same example and demonstrate a bit of multiple inheritance in Java. Okay, so let's get started. Um, in the last tutorial I had the car class, engine class, and then I had the toy car class. Okay, now let's just say that my company decides to we want to create like a flying boat, for example, a boat that could fly, and also a boat that could a plane that can land on water. Okay, so let's just assume that we have somebody out there created a class, right? All right, so let's just say a plane class. All right, and in this plane class, we have um, the following methods. All right, so a plane can do a pitch. All right, oops. All right, so let me just put my static import up here. Okay, so I can do and here will be tilt, right? Nose, up or down. And so a plane can do that. And the other thing I could do is do a yaw, right? So a yaw is basically um, makes the plane turn left or right. Okay. So we have, and now it could also roll as well. Do a body roll. Okay, so right. Um, so body roll. Let's call it that. Right. So we have this the plane class, and let's just say that our toy um, flying boat class, right? Let's just call it that. Toy flying boat, right? So we have that, and let's make this easy, and then we're going to extend it. Okay, so I'm going to extend plane because it looks like the methods in there looks good. Could be used for a toy airplane. Okay. Now for the boat. Okay. Now let's just assume. Yeah. Let's just assume that. Um, oops. Okay, so press the wrong key. My apology. Okay, so let's just assume that someone, okay, created something called a class, right? And let's say it's floater, okay? Um, and in floater, um, okay, so in floater we have a method, right? And the method is called buoyancy. This is something that we need for our toy boat, all right? So it could float, right? So since it has that one, I'm not going to do the static import. All right, so check me. That's it. Check me out. Um, I can't float. All right. So let's just say that. Okay. Now what we could do is go back into here and say, yeah, why don't Well, the problem is that we can't extend it because floater is a class, right? And Java inherently is a single inheritance model. So what we can do is say, well, if that's the case, why don't I just do the composition, right? So I can do composition and say private floater, right? And maybe call it a boat, right? And so forth, right? So and then it'll be a floater, right? So now we have access to that, like in terms of composition. Um, However, a toy flying boat, right? It could be a plane. It's is a type of plane. It's also a boat, right? So what we can do here is actually take it a little bit further and say, well, um, you know what? I'm going to create an interface, right? And let's call it boat. Okay, so here's a boat interface, right? And in the boat interface, um, okay, I'm gonna have a buoyancy, okay, a buoyancy method. Okay, so this is abstract. Okay, now what I'm gonna do back here is I say, well, in this class, if I actually have control of this class, right? Okay, so what I could do is implement this, right? So, all right. So instead of calling it floater, I'm going to implement the boat interface. Okay. Um, so now what happens is that back in here, right? I can do an implement. All right. And now it looks a lot better because I'm saying that toy planes is a type of plane, is also a type of boat. Okay. So we can get rid of this. All right. We get rid of that, and what we do is we can do an implement, right? So we implement override buoyancy in here, all right, and just say, well, in here we're gonna have a boat instead. Okay. So we have a boat, but it's, of course, it's the actual concrete type is a floater, and then in here we just say boat dot buoyancy. Okay, so we're actually just using that, all right? And this is all through composition. Now the other thing is that what we could actually do is with the toy car. Okay, so we can have a, because with a flying airplane, um, it needs to turn left or right as well, right? So why don't we just do that as well, all right? So so we have our toy car, and then what we can do is just right, so copy all this, right, accelerate. A boat doesn't reverse, so we don't really need to do that. Okay, we don't need to get the other methods. All right, so now these are the methods that we want to expose. And of course, there's this thing for, how about starting the flying boat, right? So we want to start the flying boat. Instead of say start car, which doesn't make sense, we just do this, right? We call it start flying boat, flying boat. Yes. All right, and because it's the same mechanism in terms of starting the car, we can just invoke the car, okay, starter there. Okay, so and now back in main, right? We can get rid of these two. Okay, so we'll get rid of that. All right, and if we do toy flying boat, all right, let's just call it RC Spruce Goose, all right? So toy flying boat, all right, so we have that object there, that instant, and now we can just call buoyancy, right? So now we have all that, right? Or you want the pitch as well. Oops. There it is. All right, pitch or roll, whatever. We'd also do that. Okay, so so to recap, all right. So let's just assume that someone provided us with a class plane which works for us. So what we do is that we actually extend it, right? Now the problem is that because Java is single inheritance, we like what we see in this class, all right? So it's called floater. So let's just assume that someone actually gave it to us, right? And now we have access to this code, but instead of putting private floater boat in there, right? Right? If we want to simulate multiple inheritance, so a toy flying boat actually both is a plane and a boat, right? what we can do is actually put the the floater, right? We converted this class, right, and say, well, we're gonna add in a public interface, right, and let's call it boat. And it happens that, and basically in boat, all right. So let's go back to that code in boat. There's an abstract method buoyancy, right, which floater already has the implementation for it. So when we actually use it, it makes more intuitive sense now. Okay. Um, we sort of demonstrate a little of multiple inheritance here. Okay, so now if we didn't have access to this code, right, and we only have the class, then of course we're sort of forced to use this, right? It wouldn't look as nice, right, and it will still be single inheritance, right, with a lot of composition, right? It'll still do what we want it to do. But however, if we have access to that code and we want to make the design more intuitive for a toy flying boat, that's one way we can do it. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and hope to see you again next time. Take care. Bye.